Nehemiah is all about the rebuilding of a wall of a great city, but it goes so much deeper. It's about the spiritual renewal and dependence upon God. Now, the main character is the author. His name is Nehemiah. His job was, he was the cupbearer to the king. Now, that sounds kind of fancy, doesn't it? His job was, now, again, if people wanted to take the king down, they had to kill the king, and the easiest way to do that without causing a major war was to poison him. So the cupbearer, they'd bring the king all this food, and the cupbearer tasted the food first, and if he lived, it was good. So Nehemiah had one of those kind of cushy jobs unless he got a bad taste of the food. Well, he built a good relationship with the king, and they liked each other, and they trusted each other. And one day Nehemiah goes in, the king says, "Nehemiah, you look so bummed out. What's the deal?" And Nehemiah's like, "Oh, you don't understand. My people, the walls are torn down, and things are really bad for my nation, and it's really bad for us. And I'd love to go back, and if you'd let me, I'd go back and I'll help my people." And the king says, "Sure, you can go and you can do that with my blessing. Take this and take that." And Nehemiah goes out, and Nehemiah was definitely a man of action. And he was able to accomplish an impossible task against some incredible odds. Because in your sermon notes, number one, he learned there is no success without the risk of failure. There is no success without the risk of failure. Nehemiah chapter 2, let's go to 17. "Then I said to them, 'You see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace.' I also told them about the gracious hand of my God upon me and what the king had said to me. They replied, 'Let us start rebuilding.' So they began this good work. But when Sanballat, the Horonite," he's the bad guy, "Tobiah, the Ammonite official, and Gershom, the Arab, heard about it, they mocked and ridiculed us. 'What is this you're doing?' they asked. 'Are you rebelling against the king?' I answered them by saying, 'The God of heaven will give us success. We as servants will start rebuilding, but as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim in the historical right of that.'" You see, friends, there is no success without the risk of failure. Now, let me put it to you this way. If you want to learn how to swim, you got to get into the water, okay? Because you can go out and you can read all the manuals, you can watch the videos, you can talk to the professionals, but the bottom line, if you're really going to learn how to swim, you got to get in the water. There is no success without the risk of failure. Number two, there is no reward without some hard work and sacrifice. There's no reward without some hard work and sacrifice. Now, if you read through Nehemiah chapter 3, it'll tell you about all the different people and the work that they're doing, okay? The workers and how they're doing it. Now, I read chapter 3 and I think about it, our congregation, because we're seeing some huge rewards as a congregation these days. God is adding to our number on a regular basis, and we're hearing lots of positive things that are coming in from our community. This did not just happen. It's because of the many years of praying that the saints of this church took part in. It's because of the many sacrifices that were made leading up to this day. So I believe that there are no true rewards that come without first there being some hard work and some sacrifice. Number three, Nehemiah. He found there are not great things done for God that don't include criticism and obstacles. Not great things done for God that don't include criticism and obstacles. Go to chapter 4, let's see here, verse 1. "When Sanballat," again, he's the bad guy, "heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he says, 'What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from the heaps of rubble, burned as they are?' Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at his side, also a bad guy, says, 'What they are building, if even a fox climbed on it, he would break down their wall of stones.' Then Nehemiah prays. He says, 'Hear us, O our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from their sights, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builder. You see, Sanballat, he's popping out his nasty face again here throughout the book of Nehemiah. The last thing that this guy wanted to see done was success by Nehemiah and the guys who were rebuilding the wall. Now, Sanballat, in my opinion, was very jealous. He didn't want to see Nehemiah get the glory for the work that was being done. In the same way, friends, understand my heart. What we are doing here will undoubtedly get lots of remarks and pokes from people in our community. Perhaps people from within the family of God. We can't be dissuaded. We must be willing to go forward with our task regardless of what people from the outside might think or say about us. Reminds me of a story about a guy that just couldn't seem to find a job. Finally, he saw a signpost, local zoo, help wanted, inquire within. In his interview, he learned that the prize gorilla had just died. Couldn't be replaced for several weeks, and his job would be to wear this gorilla suit and act out like he really was a gorilla. Tough job. But desperate, he says, okay, I'll take the job. But the funny thing is, this guy, he loved his job, and he played around the zoo, and he teased the kids, and had fun playing like he was a gorilla. Until one day, he had to take his act onto the trapeze. And he slipped off the trapeze and he landed right in the center of the lion's cage of all places. He was scared to death. The lion pounced up and went, roar! The guy backed up. And the lion came a little bit further and went, roar! The guy screamed, help, help, I'm a man! And the lion says, don't tell anybody, you'll get us both fired. I like that story. I like that story because clearly this young man panicked and he failed to receive correctly what the real threat was in the cage. So he panicked unnecessarily. I tell you this because we have to remember that criticism and obstacles are not really the real threat. Everybody in Battle Lake is not going to get the fact that Battle Lake Alliance Church has a full-time youth pastor. They're not going to get it. Everybody in the community is not going to get that we're going to invest thousands of dollars in outreach. They're not going to get it. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if they criticize. We see in Nehemiah that Sanballat and Tobiah, they threw insults at Nehemiah, but he continued to press forward. So how do we do that? Number 4, we have to remember that our ultimate strength is our trust in God. Our ultimate strength is our trust in God. Skip down there to verse 10, chapter 4, verse 10. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. Also, our enemy says, before they know it or see us, we'll be right there among them, and we will kill them and put an end to the work. Then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, wherever you turn, they will attack us. Therefore, I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall in exposed places, posting them by families with their swords, spears, and bows. Verse 14. After I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome, and fight for your brothers and your sons and your daughters and your wives and your homes. Our ultimate strength is our great trust in God. You see, friends, the key here is that God, it's all about Him. It's not the task at hand. It's not the workers who are standing up to the criticism. It's God. It's all about God. And too often the problem is that people put the project before God. We have to remember that what we're doing is not for us. We're doing it for His kingdom. We're doing it for His glory. Then look what happens. Skip over just a couple pages to chapter 6, verse 15. So the wall was completed on the 25th of Elul in 52 days. Okay? The project is complete. They did what they set out to do. But I guess I would argue as I think about this that the work is far from finished. In fact, if you think about it, it was just beginning. And after a major project had been completed, there's a certain temptation to relax. We just want to rest. Just kind of sit back in the nest, And I think about our church, and believe me, friends, we're really gaining speed. And I know it's taken a tremendous drain on a lot of key people here. It has. But what we've been saying all along is that we really want to see God bless our church. We want to see this church grow. And many of you dreamed and prayed for this for years. Now is not the time for a pit stop, or a siesta, or a timeout, or a breather, or a nap, or a break, or a staycation, or whatever you want to call it. It's not a time to slow down. I was thinking about some natural resting places in our lives. Times in our lives when we want to take a break. In your sermon notes, first, right after a major victory. Bears play today. Do you guys know that? Who do the Bears play? I think they play the Vikings today.
Who are the Bears?
We do, though. We want to take a break right after a major victory. Think about those stinky Packers. Right after last year's Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers, what are you going to do? He says, I'm going to Disneyland. Now, you'd think that they would just take a break, wouldn't you? Just take it easy. But this year, they're the odds-on favorite to win it again, They didn't take a break. They kept moving forward. So, first time is right after a major victory. The second time, right after a major defeat. I couldn't resist. After that major defeat, it's a time of regrouping and correcting problems. A lot of people, they just want to sit back and lick their wounds. They just want to feel sorry for themselves. Oh, I never want to feel this way again. People say, well, if we never try, then we never fail. But remember, if you never try, you never succeed. So they want to rest after a major defeat. Also, number 3, we want to rest when we lost our way. When we've lost our way. This is a sign of insecurity. Not knowing the future. No destination. This is why it is so important that we continually articulate the vision of what's happening at Battle Lake Alliance Church. We have to be clear on our mission. Why are we doing what we're doing? Like the video, we saw the kid. This is why we're doing what we're doing, is to help people like that, okay? So we have to continue to keep the vision in front of us. Number 4, when we're under attack. People say, circle the wagons. People naturally, they feel the urge to stop when the attacks come. One of my favorite movies is The Patriot with Mel Gibson. I wish I had time to show you this clip this morning, but I don't. But in a crucial time in the war, the British, they were making a push, and it was this last-ditch effort. And the push, it was very real, it was very powerful. But Mel Gibson's character, Benjamin Martin, he saw that they had nothing behind their push, and he encouraged the troops to move forward and not to retreat. You see, the victory was right there in front of them if they didn't back down. And I share that with you because it may seem tough at times, but we have to remember it's not a time to back down. And then number 5, when we're problem-free. When we're problem-free, don't rock the boat. We're in our comfort zone. It's so much easier just to sit back and do nothing. Like that old Bobby McFerrin song, Don't Worry, Be Happy.